I believe clarity is the beginning of all fortune. The clearer your thinking, the more precise your decisions. And decisions shape your destiny. You don't get wealthy by accident, you get wealthy by design. And design begins in the mind. Discipline is the invisible architect of wealth. The quiet repetitions, the early mornings, the handwritten goals, the small actions when no one's watching, that's the real gold mine. The wealthy don't rush. They don't wish. They act. Slowly, daily, faithfully. That's the rhythm of abundance. So, today, we're not chasing secrets or shortcuts. We're building the mental blueprint, the patient, consistent, and clear thinking system that slowly turns effort into income and daily actions into a legacy that lasts. I remember when I was much younger and still searching for a way to move from a life of scarcity to a life of abundance. Back then I thought that wanting a better life was enough, that a strong desire would somehow carry me where I needed to go. But desire, I discovered, is only the seed. The seed doesn't grow unless it's tended every day. The seed doesn't bear fruit unless you focus on nurturing it. That's when I learned one of the simplest and most profound truths about achieving anything worthwhile. You have to be absolutely clear about where you're going. Write it down, review it every morning, and protect it like it's a flame in a dark room. People walk through life hoping things will work out somehow. They have a goal in their heart, but it's buried under a mountain of distractions. The phone, the television, the meaningless conversation, the habits that lead nowhere, these things quietly steal your future. What separates those who build something remarkable from those who wander is focus. And focus doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. I learned this lesson early. I had an old notebook where I would write down my biggest aims. At first it felt awkward, like I was talking to myself. But I came to understand that when you write down a goal, it becomes real. What lives in your thoughts is abstract, like mist. What goes down on paper takes on weight and form. So every morning I would review those words. I would read them aloud. Not because the paper had magic, but because repeating it to myself made it sink deeper and deeper until it became a part of who I was. Then came the second part, removing distractions. Too many people try to build a tower with one hand while tearing down its foundation with the other. They want a better life, but spend hours scrolling, gossiping, living in a world that has no bearing on their future. What I came to understand is that saying no is as important as saying yes. To focus on your goal means accepting that certain things and certain people have no place in your path anymore. Not because you're better, not because you're too good for them, but because you've decided to walk a certain road and you can't carry everything you've picked up along the way. I can tell you from experience, every dollar I've earned, every investment I've made, every piece of knowledge I've gained came because I chose focus over distraction. There was a time when friends would call and I'd say, "I can't tonight, I've got work to do." Not because I didn't care about friends, but because I knew that one night of discipline adds up over years. The book you don't read tonight, the dollar you don't save this week, the conversation you don't have about your future, these are the moments that shape the rest of your life. And when you review your goal daily, it becomes a sort of North Star. Suddenly, when a distraction appears, you can measure it quickly. You can ask, does this align with where I'm going? If the answer is no, it doesn't deserve your time, your energy, or your attention. This is how ordinary people rise. Not by doing everything, but by doing the right things consistently, every single day. That's how focus works. You don't stumble upon a great life, you create it piece by piece, thought by thought, choice by choice. So write down the goal, review it until it lives within you, and guard it from the noise of the world. Do this long enough, and one day you'll realize you weren't just chasing a goal, you were becoming the person who achieves it. Stay focused, and you'll never have to wonder if you'll arrive. You'll already be there. I remember being a young man, hungry for change, tired of living paycheck to paycheck. At that point in my life, I thought hard work was enough. I thought showing up every morning, putting in long hours, and doing as I was told would one day unlock some door to financial freedom. But after a few years, it became painfully obvious that working harder didn't necessarily mean living better. The days were long, the nights were short, and no matter how many hours I gave, the needle refused to move. What was missing? Not the effort, but the mindset. Not the sweat, but the understanding. That's when I discovered that to build a wealthy life, you must first cultivate a wealthy mind. And that doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen surrounded by people complaining about the price of gas or repeating the same tired excuses about why life can't get better. It doesn't happen when your nights are spent consuming television shows about other people's victories. A wealthy mind is built intentionally, shaped by what it takes in every day. If you want to rise, you must first surround yourself with ideas and influences that raise you. In my own life, the shift began with books. At first, I had no money for seminars or mentors, no access to wealthy friends. What I did have was a library card, and I used it like a lifeline. The pages of those books became my mentors. They introduced me to minds far wiser than mine. They spoke of discipline, of sacrifice, of planting seeds long before seeing a harvest. The words were like sparks, lighting a flame in a heart that had long forgotten how to hope. Then came the people. Slowly, intentionally, I began to seek out those whose words and habits spoke of abundance. They weren't always wealthy in dollars, but they were rich in character, rich in outlook. They spoke of ideas, of growth, of service. They refused to dwell in negativity, refused to accept mediocrity as a life sentence. The more I surrounded myself with such people, the more I noticed the shift within myself. What felt impossible became a possibility. What felt out of reach became a goal worth pursuing. What you feed your mind is as critical as what you feed your body. The wealthy understand this. They don't stumble upon ideas that multiply their income. They seek them out. They read books that expand their understanding of money, habits that build resilience, stories that teach lessons worth repeating. They attend seminars. They ask questions. They humbly seek wisdom from those who have gone before. They treat their minds like a garden, planting seeds every day, knowing the right seed tended well can feed generations. A wealthy mindset is rooted in discipline, not the kind that feels like punishment, but the kind that feels like planting an orchard. You don't measure the worth of the seed by the tiny root it has today. You measure it by the fruit it will bear tomorrow, and 10 years from now, and 50. The books you read tonight, the conversation you have this week, the podcast you listen to on the way to work, these are seeds. Seeds of thought that, if tended well, will bear the fruit of a life that is unrecognizably different from the one you started with. I came to realize this when I was surrounded by those who lived as I had lived, repeating the same habits and expecting a different result. The shift came when I chose to surround myself with those who refused to accept the ordinary. Suddenly, ideas became strategies, strategies became habits, and habits became the foundation upon which a wealthy life rests. If you want to rise, review your circle. Refine your library. Refocus your conversations. What enters your mind determines what leaves your hands. What you accept within becomes what you create without. Build a wealthy mind first, and you will build a wealthy life. One of the first lessons I learned about money came from a very simple practice. It wasn't about chasing returns or trying to beat the market. It was about knowing where every dollar went. At first, I didn't understand why this was so important. Money came in, money went out, and as long as I was working hard, I thought I was doing all I could. But that's where I was wrong. The wealthy don't just work hard for their money. They make sure every dollar has a job, every dollar has a purpose, and every dollar knows where it's supposed to be. That's why I began using a simple approach to budgeting that changed my life. I divided every dollar I earned into 4 basic categories: needs, savings, investments, and giving. Not because it sounded sophisticated, but because it brought clarity. It gave each dollar a role, and when every dollar has a role, every dollar has respect. I remember the first month I tried this. I earned a modest paycheck and for the first time refused to spend it blindly. 70% went toward needs, my rent, utilities, food, transportation, the essentials. It was enough to cover a simple, comfortable life, and that was okay. The key was making sure this portion didn't expand every time my income grew. I didn't want my needs to swallow the room meant for growth. Then came 10% for savings. Not the kind you tap every weekend for an impulse purchase, but a sacred portion. This 10% was about making sure that no matter what happened, I was planting seeds for my future. The wealthy understand that saved money is more than a safety net, it's a statement of respect for the person you're becoming. Another 10% went toward investments. At first, this felt like the hardest portion to justify. It felt like sending dollars out into the world and hoping they came back. But I learned quickly that the right investments don't just come back, they multiply. Even when this 10% was a tiny sum, it was about building the habit, gaining the experience, and gaining the trust of my own discipline. The final 10% was set aside for giving. At first, this felt counterintuitive. Why give when you're trying to build? Yet this was the portion that shaped my character more than any other. Giving reminds you that money is a tool for making life better for yourself and for others. It reminds you that no matter how much or how little you have, you can always give a part of yourself to the world. The wealthy understand this better than most. They don't wait until abundance arrives to give. They give from the beginning, knowing that generosity attracts prosperity. Each month, I review these 4 categories, not because it's a chore, but because it's a conversation. A conversation between who I am and who I want to be. The review allows for adjustment, reflection, and alignment. It gives me the chance to ask questions like, are my needs growing too quickly? Am I saving enough? Am I learning from my investments? Am I living with a heart that gives? That simple practice, repeated month after month, became the foundation upon which I built my financial future. The wealthy have long known this secret. A simple budget is not a restriction, it's a roadmap. It doesn't bind you, it guides you. It doesn't limit your potential, it gives it a direction. Master this one discipline and you master the language of money itself. Respect every dollar, give every dollar a purpose, review your progress often, and watch how quickly a life of scarcity transforms into one of abundance. The moment you understand that, you have already stepped out of the crowd and started walking the path of the wealthy. I learned a long time ago that every dollar you put to work is like sending a soldier out to the field. You wouldn't send a soldier into a land you've never studied against an enemy you don't understand. Yet so many people treat their hard-earned money this way, tossing it into ventures and ideas they don't comprehend, hoping for a miracle. Hope is a beautiful thing, but it has no place as an investment strategy. The wealthy understand that every risk must be calculated, every dollar treated as a trusted employee, and every opportunity tested before committing the army. Early in my life, I made this mistake. I put money into a business I didn't understand because someone promised quick returns. I ignored that quiet voice within that said, "You don't truly comprehend this, slow down." But I ignored it because I was chasing the thrill of making money fast, not making money wisely. The result was predictable. I lost more than money. I lost time, confidence, and focus. Yet from that lesson came a truth I have never forgotten. Never invest in what you don't understand. The wealthy operate with a discipline that goes beyond greed. They recognize that every dollar must justify its place in their portfolio. They ask questions until the unknown becomes known. They understand that patience is a greater advantage than bravado, that clarity beats speculation every time. Begin with small amounts. Begin where you can afford to make a mistake, learn from it, adjust, and then scale your efforts when you have understanding. I recall sitting down with a mentor when I was younger, a man who had built a successful business from humble beginnings. He looked at the eagerness in my eyes and said, "Every dollar you have is a seed, but not every soil will make it grow. Learn the land before you plant the seed." Those words shaped how I approached every financial decision thereafter. I stopped rushing to claim every opportunity and started studying the nature of the investments available to me. I read, I asked questions, I tested ideas with smaller amounts, watched how the results unfolded, and learned from the outcomes. That shift from acting out of urgency to acting out of understanding changed the trajectory of my life. Suddenly, I was no longer hoping for outcomes, I was engineering them. Suddenly, every dollar I invested became a lesson. Every lesson became a tool, and every tool built a stronger foundation for the future. What separates the wealthy from the rest is not that they have no fear of risk, but that they respect it. They don't try to eliminate risk because life itself is a risk. They learn to measure it, to understand it, and to make it work for them. Begin with a small stake. Watch how the investment behaves. Learn its patterns, its seasons, its demands. Adjust your approach until the risk becomes calculated, until the reward feels inevitable. Only then do you scale. There is no glory in losing a large sum quickly. The glory is in gaining wisdom from every dollar, regardless of its size. True wealth is built slowly because it rests upon understanding, and understanding takes time. Too many people are in a rush to multiply their money before they have learned how to multiply their discipline. Begin with a seed, nurture it until you understand its nature, and when you have learned its language, plant a forest. Remember, every dollar you send into the world to work for, you should carry a piece of your understanding, your discipline, your patience. Never send it blindly, hoping it will find its own path. Guide it, watch it, learn from it, adjust as needed, and when the time is right, give it more responsibility. That is how the wealthy build their kingdoms, one well-understood seed at a time. There's a quiet, unshakable strength that comes from knowing you can weather a storm. Not the kind that blows in from the skies, but the financial storms that every person will face at some point in their life. It might be an unexpected medical expense, a car that suddenly needs replacing, or a shift in the winds of the economy that leaves a paycheck delayed or a job lost. These moments come for everyone, regardless of how smart or diligent or hardworking we are. The wealthy understand this better than anyone because for every dollar earned, saved, and invested, they first build a strong fortress of safety. The starting point of that fortress is an emergency fund. It doesn't matter if you're 20 or 60, making a modest income or running a successful enterprise. The first stone you must lay is a simple one, $1,000. Not a complicated target, not a number that needs a calculator and a 10-year projection, just $1,000 set aside. This first chunk is like planting a flag in the ground, making a statement to yourself and to the world that you respect the future enough to prepare for it. I remember doing this in a time when every dollar felt like it had 10 jobs to do. The idea of setting aside money for some undefined emergency felt almost selfish when there were debts to pay and obligations at hand. But one quiet evening, looking at my own ledger, I decided to try it. I promised myself I would save $100 a month, $10 a week if needed, until I had a solid 1,000 saved. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened. And when that first milestone was met, I felt a shift deep inside. Suddenly, the smallest crisis felt manageable. The noise in my mind started to quiet down, replaced by a sense of control I hadn't felt in years. Then came the next phase. The wealthy don't stop at one milestone. They understand that the first goal is a bridge to the second. So I set a new target, 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Not 3 months of comfort if everything goes right, but 3 months if the wind suddenly turns cold and the seas rise. This is the fund that separates the hopeful from the confident. It is the buffer that allows a person to walk into a room and say, I am making this decision because it's right, not because I am desperate. An emergency fund is not about fear. It's about options. I learned this lesson the hard way when I watched a man I admired lose a business he had built for 10 years. The sales slowed, the debts grew, and when the unexpected came, as it always does, he had nowhere to turn. He had built his enterprise, but he had neglected the fortress that protects it. Everything he worked for was wiped out in a matter of months. It was a lesson that shaped my own approach. Never build a castle upon sand. Build upon bedrock. The wealthy understand that peace of mind is the foundation of risk-taking. You can't create, innovate, or expand when every dollar you have is one crisis away from disappearing. The emergency fund is not idle money. It is dormant strength, quiet resilience. It allows you to invest wisely because you can afford to wait for the right opportunity. It allows you to walk away from a toxic job because your next paycheck doesn't define your worth. This is why I tell you, start where you can. Begin with $1 if that's all you can save today, $10 if that's within reach, $100 when your income allows it. The habit is more important than the number. What you build in yourself by saving consistently is far more valuable than any number you write in an account. It is the character that separates those who rise from those who stumble. Build that first $1,000, build those 3 to 6 months. Build the quiet strength that lets you stand tall when the winds shift. It's not just money, it's mastery, it's peace. It's the seed of every risk worth taking. We've all felt it, that tug in the chest when we walk into a store, scroll online, or see something that sparks a moment of desire. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how disciplined you claim to be, because this is how human nature works. We're emotional creatures. We don't always spend because it makes sense. We spend because it feels right in the moment. And if we don't slow down long enough to ask ourselves one simple question, we can watch a lifetime of hard-earned dollars slip away, one impulsive decision at a time. I learned this lesson early. In those days, every dollar felt like a victory. Every dollar felt like a soldier I could send out to work for me. But every dollar was also under threat from a voice that said, "Why wait? You deserve this. Life is short." And life is short. But life is also long enough to regret making too many decisions in haste. What changed for me was when I began to use the simplest tool in the world, time. Not an app, not an elaborate system, just a rule. A quiet promise I made to myself. I will wait at least 24 hours before making any significant purchase. Not because I can't afford it, but because I want to understand if I truly value it. That one rule changed everything. Suddenly, a shirt that felt irresistible felt ordinary a day later. A gadget that promised to make life better lost its charm once the adrenaline of desire ebbed. An expensive dinner felt like a treat until I asked myself how it fit into the bigger picture. And when you apply this rule, when you give yourself space between emotion and action, you gain an edge. You regain control. We live in a world that profits from urgency. The one-day-only sales, the buy-now alerts, the countdown clocks. They are designed to bypass your better judgment, to make you spend first and justify later. But when you give yourself permission to slow down, to breathe, you break that spell. What was urgent becomes optional. What felt necessary becomes a question. What looked like a bargain suddenly feels like clutter. I remember a young man I worked with, passionate and ambitious, making a strong income for the first time. But every dollar he earned felt like a dollar he had to spend. New car payments, expensive nights out, the latest phone that came out every year. And when I asked him why, he said, "'Cause I can." Isn't that the point? But within a year, when an unexpected crisis came, the loss of a job, an accident that kept him from working, he had nothing left. All the things he had purchased didn't save him. The hours he had worked weren't stored away. The discipline he had ignored came back as a lesson he wouldn't forget. Time exposes the difference between a want and a need. Time allows you to ask a deeper question. Will this matter in a year? Will it build or diminish my strength? Will it add value or just consume space? The wealthy understand this. They have no problem making decisions quickly when an investment is right. But when it's about consumption, when it's about chasing a moment of comfort or status, they slow down. They step back. They ask themselves if this dollar can work harder for them elsewhere. That is how you create a life where money is a servant and not a master. By putting a space between desire and decision, you reclaim control. Not because you have to live with scarcity, but because you understand abundance. True abundance is knowing that every dollar you save, every dollar you invest, every dollar you intentionally spend is a vote for the future you deserve. Pause. Wait. Let the urgency settle. The best decisions don't happen in haste. They happen in clarity. There is a quiet power that emerges when you learn to simplify. It doesn't scream for attention, it doesn't demand applause, but it reshapes your life in ways that are profound and lasting. Too many people complicate their financial lives until the numbers overwhelm the person trying to manage them. Too many accounts, too many debts, too many payments, too many distractions. The tragedy is that in trying to cover every possibility, we forget to focus on the one thing that really builds wealth: clarity. I remember in my early years trying to do too much at once. I had a checking account here, a savings account there, a credit card in one bank, a loan in another, and a handful of bills that came due at odd times throughout the month. And every evening I came home exhausted, trying to piece together a financial picture that felt like a jigsaw puzzle. It was as if my money was scattered across 10 different places, and I was trying to herd it back like a farmer chasing sheep. What I discovered was this: a scattered approach creates a scattered life. And if you want to win in the world of money, you have to first win in the world of focus. That's why simplicity is a discipline. It means making deliberate choices. It means looking at your bank accounts, your debts, your expenses, and saying, how can I make this cleaner? How can I make this work with less friction? The wealthy understand this. They don't have 10 checking accounts, because 10 checking accounts don't create 10 times the wealth. What creates 10 times the wealth is knowing where every dollar goes and making sure every dollar has a purpose. I learned this lesson from a man I met long ago. He didn't have a fancy car. He didn't wear expensive suits. What he had was a quiet confidence about money that came from mastery. One day, I asked him how he kept track of it all. He smiled and pulled out a small notebook. In that notebook, he had listed every account he owned, every dollar that came in, every dollar that went out. Not because he was obsessed, but because he refused to live in the dark. He refused to let money slip away simply because he failed to watch it. What he taught me was this: wealth doesn't arise from complexity. It arrives from clarity. Here's a practice I want to hand to you. Begin by looking at every account you have. Do you really need 3 checking accounts? Do you really benefit from 4 credit cards? Or are you spreading yourself too thin? Too many payments means too many moments where things can go wrong. Too many accounts means too many passwords, too many statements, too many temptations to spend. Too many debts means too many nights where worry becomes your blanket. The path to clarity is the path to control. Begin by simplifying. Consolidate your debts where you can. Close the accounts that don't serve you. Choose one bank that meets your needs and use it well. Streamline your payments so that you don't spend hours each month chasing due dates. Let every dollar have a home and every account have a reason. And as you do this, something quiet but remarkable happens. You gain a sense of command over your finances that no bonus, no raise, and no windfall can provide. You stop thinking, I hope this works out. And you start knowing, I've built this to work out. You carry yourself differently because the weight of confusion is gone. You can breathe, you can think, you can focus. That is the secret the wealthy have long embraced. Not that money is more important than life, but that a life where money operates with simplicity is a life where you can pursue more meaningful things. Simplicity gives you clarity, clarity gives you focus, and focus gives you the chance to build something that lasts. Make it simple. Make it clear. Make it work for you. I've seen too many people chase money like it was the only treasure in the world, only to find out later they'd lost far more valuable riches along the way. Money without health is a burden. Wealth without integrity is a hollow victory. Success without family is an empty room. True wealth, the kind that lasts and nourishes your soul, embraces every dimension of life. When I first started out, I was eager hungry to build, to earn, to prove myself. I worked long hours, often neglecting my health. I thought if I just pushed harder and sacrificed more, I could make up for lost time and missed opportunities. But over time, I learned something invaluable. No amount of money is worth sacrificing your well-being. Your body is the vessel that carries you through this journey, and if it falters, no bank account can compensate. Balance isn't just a nice idea, it's a commandment of success. It means you don't work so hard that you miss the birthdays, the laughter, the moments with those you love. It means you honor your body with rest and care, so you have the energy and clarity to pursue your goals with passion. It means you hold integrity higher than the temptation of shortcuts or easy gains, because wealth earned without honor is a wealth that slips away like sand through fingers. I remember meeting a successful businessman who'd made millions, but lost the trust of everyone around him. When I asked him what was missing, he said, "I have all the money I ever dreamed of, but I'm alone." That was a wake-up call. It taught me that wealth is not merely about accumulation, it's about alignment. Your financial success must align with your health, your values, your relationships. You can build an empire, but if it costs you your peace, your family, or your principles, then what have you really built? True wealth is measured not just by dollars, but by the joy you experience, the respect you earn, and the legacy you leave behind. Balance requires wisdom and discipline. It means setting boundaries around work hours so that you have time for exercise, for meaningful conversations, for moments of quiet reflection. It means making choices every day that honor your whole life, not just your bank account. When temptation arises to sacrifice one for the other, remember this: you are building a life, not just a ledger. I've found that the most prosperous people I know don't just have money, they have a rich life. They wake up energized, spend time with family, care for their health, contribute to their community, and pursue their dreams. Their wealth grows naturally because it is rooted in balance and purpose. So, if you want to build true wealth, don't chase money at the expense of your life. Instead, build a life where money is a tool to enhance your health, your relationships, and your integrity. That is the real secret. When your finances serve your life rather than consume it, you become truly rich. Remember this well. Money can buy things, but it can't buy back your health, your reputation, or your time with loved ones. The richest person is not the one with the fullest bank account, but the one who has balanced wealth in every area of their life. Make your success holistic. Make your wealth whole. In the end, that's what true wealth is all about. Generosity is one of those simple truths that many overlook on their journey to wealth. But I've learned and taught many times over that generosity is not just a virtue, it's a vital practice for anyone who truly wants to build lasting wealth. It may sound paradoxical at first, but giving a portion of your income away is one of the surest ways to attract abundance into your life. When you allow your wealth to flow, it returns to you multiplied. I remember early in my career, I was taught a principle that has stayed with me ever since. Give, and it shall be given unto you. That's not just a nice phrase. It's a fundamental law of wealth and life. Wealth is energy. Like energy, if it's bottled up, it stagnates. But when it flows outward, whether through charity, support, or investment, it creates movement and growth. The more you give, the more you create space for more to come back. One of the reasons the wealthy tend to stay wealthy is because they understand money is not merely for hoarding or self-indulgence. Money is a tool, a seed that can grow when planted, but it needs water in the form of generosity to flourish. When you give a portion of your income, you're not losing money. You're planting seeds for future abundance. I've met people who say, "I can't afford to give. I need to save more." But I tell them, the act of giving is not about the amount, it's about the mindset. Even a small, consistent gift can open the door to blessings you never expected. Giving forces you to stretch, to think beyond scarcity, and to embrace the idea that there is always more where that came from. Generosity also builds character and expands your perspective. It connects you with others, creates goodwill, and fosters the spirit of gratitude. When you give, you remind yourself that wealth is not just a personal treasure, it's a resource to be shared. And sharing, my friends, is one of the highest forms of wealth. In my own life, I've witnessed countless stories of generosity leading to unexpected returns, not always financial, but often far greater. A friend who gave to a cause found new business opportunities. Another who supported a struggling family gained lifelong relationships and community respect. These are the true riches that compound over time. Here's a practical way to start. Decide on a percentage of your income, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, that you commit to giving regularly. It could be to charity, to family members, to your community, or even reinvested in someone else's dream. Whatever form it takes, make it intentional. Schedule it. Treat it like an investment in your financial and spiritual future. Abundance flows when it is allowed to flow freely. Wealth stuck in a vault or buried in fear is like a river dammed, its power is wasted, and eventually it dries up. But wealth that moves, that is shared and reinvested in the world, gathers momentum and grows beyond imagination. So, generosity isn't just about being kind, it's about being smart. It's one of the most powerful strategies you can practice to build lasting wealth. You don't become richer by holding on tightly. You become richer by opening your hands and trusting that what you give out will find its way back multiplied. If you want to grow your wealth, give generously, not because you have to, but because you understand the law of circulation. Wealth is a cycle, and your giving keeps the cycle alive and thriving. Remember, you don't give to get. You give because abundance is your natural state, and generosity is your path to living it fully. Give wisely, give consistently, and watch how your own fortunes begin to change. In the end, generosity is not a cost, it's an investment in the wealth of your life and soul. That's the secret that most never learn, but those who do never stop winning. Finishing strong is the hallmark of those who succeed where others fall short. It's easy to start something new. Many people are full of energy and excitement at the beginning of a project, a goal, or a plan. But the difference between those who merely try and those who truly succeed lies in the ability to finish what they start and to finish strong. Wealthy people understand this better than anyone they know, that the race is not to the swift, but to the persistent. Every morning, the day begins with a choice. Will you simply drift through the hours, or will you approach the day with intention and commitment? Those who build lasting wealth don't leave things to chance. They begin each day by declaring a commitment, a promise to themselves to take specific actions, to maintain focus, and to push forward regardless of distractions or setbacks. This is the starting line, but not just any starting line. It's a promise that you will see the day through with purpose. I've often said that discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. Imagine how much weight you can avoid by simply committing at the start. When you take those first steps with conviction, you create momentum. And momentum, as we know, is the currency of achievement. But momentum only grows if you finish what you start. Now, finishing strong isn't just about pushing hard at the end. It's about pacing yourself, keeping your eyes on the prize, and maintaining a steady, consistent effort. Wealth doesn't appear overnight. It appears to those who stick to their plans, day after day, year after year. Finishing strong means never giving up just because the initial excitement has faded. It means showing up even when motivation runs low. It means doing the work when no one is watching. At the end of every day, the wealthy don't just drop their tools and walk away. They take a moment for reflection, a review of what was accomplished, what needs improvement, and what lessons can be learned. This review is critical. It turns experience into wisdom. It helps course correct and prepares the mind for the next day's challenges. I remember early in my career when my mentor advised me to spend just 10 minutes each night reviewing my day. At first, I thought it was unnecessary, but I soon realized that this simple habit transformed my approach. By recognizing small wins, I stayed motivated. By acknowledging mistakes, I learned how to avoid repeating them. This habit of review is like a compass that keeps you on course in the vast sea of distractions. Think about it this way. Wealth is a journey, not a destination. And every journey has many small steps. If you start a journey and stop halfway, you get nowhere. But if you take consistent steps with clear commitment and daily review, you will reach your destination. Those who finish strong know that the last mile is just as important as the first. One practical strategy is to write down your daily commitments in the morning. Know more than 3 key actions to move your financial goals forward. Then, before bed, write a brief review. What did I achieve? What did I learn? What will I do differently tomorrow? This simple ritual aligns your thinking and actions, creating a powerful cycle of growth. Finishing strong is also a mindset. It's the belief that no matter how tough the road, you are capable of crossing the finish line. It's about resilience, determination, and unwavering focus. The wealthy have learned to respect this process, to honor their commitments, and to trust that success is built not on luck, but on finishing what they start. So, if you want to build wealth, don't just start projects or ideas. Finish them. Begin each day with clear intention, and close each day with honest reflection. The secret to success isn't in never failing, it's in always finishing. Remember, the race isn't won by the sprinter, but by the marathoner. Finish strong and you will win. As we come to the close of our time together, I want you to reflect deeply on the journey you've embarked upon, not just today, but every day moving forward. The path to wealth is not a sprint. It is a marathon of mindset, daily action, and unwavering commitment. You've been given ideas, principles, and strategies rooted in timeless wisdom, but what truly transforms those words into results is action. It is the daily practice of thinking clearly, working diligently, and growing steadily that builds lasting wealth. Remember this, wealth is not merely about the numbers in your bank account. It is about the quality of your decisions, the habits you form, and the discipline you cultivate over time. True financial success flows from the inside out. It begins with the mindset you adopt, the clarity you bring to your goals, and the willingness to show up every day, especially when the going gets tough. You must believe in the process even when you don't see immediate results, because wealth rewards patience and consistency more than it rewards speed or luck. You've learned that every dollar you earn can be thought of as a worker and employee you send out to generate more value for you. But the key is how you manage these employees, how you allocate your resources, and how disciplined you remain in resisting the temptation to spend impulsively. Small actions done daily, like saving consistently, investing wisely, and avoiding unnecessary debt, compound over time into something much greater than the sum of their parts. The secret lies in persistence, not in chasing quick fixes, but beyond the numbers and the strategies. Wealth is about freedom. Financial freedom gives you options, peace of mind, and the ability to focus on what matters most, your family, your health, your passions, and your legacy. So, take ownership of your financial story. Recognize that your future is not predetermined by your past. No matter where you are today, the decisions you make right now can change the trajectory of your life. So here is the call to action. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for some big windfall. Start with what you have, right where you are. Write down your financial goals. Track your progress honestly and regularly. Make one small improvement each day, a bit more saving, a bit more learning, a bit more discipline. Let these small wins fuel your confidence and motivate you to keep going. Speak your intentions out loud. Tell someone you trust about the changes you're committing to make. There is power in accountability, and in declaring your goals, you anchor them in reality. Remember, the greatest wealth builders in history didn't succeed because they were lucky or had vast resources. They succeeded because they made daily decisions that aligned with their vision and stayed the course. If you commit to this path, year after year, you won't just accumulate money. You will build a life of purpose, independence, and true abundance. The effort you invest today is the foundation of your tomorrow. So take that step now. Make today the day you stop just wishing for wealth and start creating it. Your future self will thank you. Keep this in mind always. Wealth isn't magic, it's habit. Wealth isn't luck, it's discipline. Wealth isn't distant. It begins with your next choice. Now, go forth, think clearly, work daily, grow rich slowly, and take action every day. Your journey to lasting wealth starts here.